Evening, or even afternoon. Yes, I keep forgetting what day it is. It's the afternoon. Welcome to the AquaStax afternoon hour with me, Long Steve. It is 3 p.m. on Thursday afternoon, my regular stream. This is going to be the last one before the Christmas week. I'm not going to do any next week, just too much things going on, or too many things going on. So it'll be at least a whole week off, and then Tuesday in the new year, I think, or Tuesday after Christmas. That'll be the first one I will do. Anyway, let's get to it. So, I got to the point on Tuesday evening, it was Tuesday evening, and I got to the point where I had, let's just kick off my gulp task, I had some extra enhanced collision routines going on. Now we need Chrome, there he is. So what I'd done is I'd expanded my collision code. Check I'm not muted, no, good. Been using my mute button on my keyboard every now and again just to avoid making too many noises into the mic. Here we go, right, so I had done a whole load of extra work which tries to work out which blocks in the grid we were going to be using for collision testing, and we also fixed a couple of bugs where one could fast drop the block and it would not land, but now it does. So let's see where I can get to today. I think I can get to the point where interesting that some collisions occurring at the moment. Oh, well, I'll not worry about that for now. I would just like to get to a point where I can get the blocks landing on each other and then automatically triggering a new block when one has landed. That way I won't have to keep pressing the space bar. There was something I was going to look at first as well. I was going to try and remind myself of some of the routines that I used for collision testing. And one of the things I looked at on Tuesday evening was some triangle collision testing code, and it was all pretty complicated, very sort of optimized and old fixed point maths code. So I'm going to have a quick look at that and see if I can remind myself what I did and whether or not it's worth jumping into that, or whether or not I want to completely ignore that and do it again from scratch. So one of the things I had when I just started the stream was a look at my old code. Oh, hi, Bill Gates. Good to see you. Let's see, I was going to look at some old triangle collision code that I wrote many years ago, and what I used to do was follow the old tutorials on the internet or in books and write test code. So I've got quite a lot of little tools in my old project. This is like 10 years old, this code, which tested out bits of things, and I distinctly remember writing some code to test out triangle collisions. So I'm going to have a quick look at the code I wrote to see what it did. I think that's going to be the main body of it. It looks like a Java canvas. It's actually desktop Java. I wonder if it will still run. What was the build command? What did it do? Build command. This is an Ant script. So Ant is the build system for Java. It's pretty basic actually. It just used Java-C to compile things probably. I wonder if that exists. I'm going to see if that exists on my Mac. You never know, it might do. Java-C. Yes, I've got a Java compiler. Java minus version. What are we on? 1.7. I think I probably would have been 1.3 when I wrote this code originally. I'm actually going to try and run it and see what happens. Actually, I'll look at the code first just to see if it's even worth bothering with. Come back. I wanted the, looks like the canvas is the one that has most of the code in. So, bounce, friction, gravity, slope, collision. We've got a lot of stuff here. Object in world. Collide with boundaries. So this is, we're actually using the fixed point code. So this is very much like the code is actually in my old game. I wonder what it even does. It must have been me testing out the collision, this collision code, SAT, triangle sat collide. I wonder what that means. Triangle SAT collide method. Run. I'm tempted to give it a quick try and see if it will run. Do I have ant? That's the other command. Ant. Oh yeah, I've got ant. So, Project AquaStax. Hi Erasmus, good to see you. I'm just about to dive into a bit of history here and see if I can compile a bit of code I wrote over 10 years ago and run it. It was actually Java code, and it was something I wrote to test out, so J2SE, to test out the triangle collision routines, which I ultimately put into my game, because the game is made up of triangles that make blocks. And I did a bunch of collision testing or enhancing the collision code on Tuesday, but it's still not right. You can see the blocks don't actually stick together properly yet. But let's just go back to this one and see if I can figure out what was going on. So we're going into Collide. I used to like calling my old code names with Y on the end. Who's that? Oh, hi, Rod. I won't pronounce your full name. And Kylie as well. Good to see you again. Collide, here we are. So I got Collide and Sticky and Texty and Spritey and Fonty and all sorts of interesting things there, right? What do you reckon? If I just type ant, like I say, a signature. If I just type ant, what's going to happen? Wow, it actually built it. What signature do you mean there, Bill? I'm not quite sure what you mean on the text chat. Worked. I wonder if ant has a run task in it. Build, clean, init. No, it doesn't, but it might, if I'm lucky, just Java. Let's bin, what have we got? Java minus class path. I can't even remember how to run Java code. It's been so long. Minus cp bin Collide by itself. Oh wow, look at that! It does it. It's something's going on. Can I move this around? No. So the code is a block and it's dropping down, and it actually collided with those two triangles. So it must be testing out the code that I ultimately put into my game, and it slid down, didn't it? And it slid down and it changed color when it actually landed. Blimey, blast from the past. Oh, the commands. Terminal commands. Ah. There's all sorts of complicated terminal commands. Let me just... My bot, Tim, has a couple of commands, but not very many of them yet. There we go. Count the number of lines of code. Interesting. Still runs after all these years. And SAT. What's SAT? I'm just going to Google this because I'm curious now. Separating axis theorem. Ah. See what's going on here. I'm not going to read all this, but I do remember MetaNet software. These guys did N, the Ninja-related platform game, and N+, and N++. I think they released recently, and I must have gone through this tutorials way back in the past. I'm not going to spend a lot of time doing that today. I might actually dig into this off stream and see if I can remember how it works. What I'm going to do is focus a bit on the collisions that I started doing before. So, how to support multiplayer puzzle using Cocos2d-JS. Multiplayer puzzle, yeah, I've done some multiplayer puzzle games, word search, crosswords, that kind of stuff. It's really nice using JavaScript on your front end, like using iOS and Android apps in JavaScript, and then you use JavaScript on the back end as well. You write Node.js code, so it's pretty much JavaScript end to end. It's a nice way of doing things. So let's see what I can do. I'm looking at this block dropping, and it's obviously now using my list of grid cells to collide against, but it's actually colliding when they're not actually not actually overlapping. That's what it's doing. I think I'm just running through an array, and if anything in that colored area, so the slightly red highlighted area, 50% transparent red on top, if anything in any of those squares has something already in it within the grid, then it stops moving. There it is. Yeah, so it's stopping. So actually, let's tweak this so that it works a bit better. So that's going to be in. So it's one of these functions. It's collide block. It's grid collide block. Hope everyone's looking forward to Christmas. I'm looking forward to a little bit of time off. Although, in fact, I haven't been doing any paid work for a couple of days now. Been doing our tax returns for the year. Although in the UK, we don't have to do them by the end of the year. It's the end of January. We have to do them by. Let's see. The tax returns themselves aren't particularly difficult to do. Certainly don't have any complicated tax requirements. It's the filing that has to happen before that we leave all our stuff to the end of the year and file it in a big cabinet. And then while we're doing that, we have to get rid of the stuff that's been sitting in the filing cabinet since last year. So it takes ages. Anyway, I digress. I want to find my collide block routine. Collide block, here it is. So it's collide block with grid data. Let's see what happens. Let's insert block into grid. Create grid nodes. Where are they all gone? Collide block with grid bounds, collide block with grid data. So it's not a very big function at the moment. It's doing get grid index positions for block collision. So this was go away. Control dot. I can't remember the hotkey to jump between function usage and function definition. Anyway, get grid index positions for block collision. So this is mostly what I did on Tuesday afternoon, wasn't it? And this function is what's returning the highlighted grid cells. Oh, hi, Ederiok. What an interesting name that is. Hope I pronounced it right. And I think I used a highlight position, didn't I? Grid collision squares. Yeah, let's see where we do that. That gets set up down in here, yes. Oh, and Seeker07, good to see it. So this is, I'll comment this now, I remember. Show the grid squares that collision will be tested with, or tested for. And actually it just goes through these, and if any of them are non-zero, then it returns 99. But we also actually have to check that the appropriate index is non-zero, because why am I returning any that are non-zero? That was to do with the overlapping, wasn't it? So I remember adding an arbitrary vertical number, or say vertical number, just a number of vertical blocks to this collision region, so that it's always testing this bottom area here when it doesn't need to. That's possibly to do with the lower boundary of the block. I don't know why I did that. Let's go and have a quick look. So, is it add one above and below? Do I ever need to add one below? Maybe I don't. In fact, that's the above, so that's adding. So we've got the index, then we add self.blockswide, which is 13 or 14 blocks to the next one up. Let's just leave this one off for a moment, see what happens. So now we've got the grids above. So now that looks a bit better to me. That looks like the actual grid cells in the grid are the ones covered by the falling block at any given time. Let's see how it works for different shaped blocks. So they're the only ones that we're going to want to actually be testing with. Yeah, that's looking better. Luckily, we don't have to go sideways because it's always locked to a column position. Right. See if we can. This is a good test. Yes. So actually, those grid cells that I'm now returning from my long-windedly named index function, get grid index positions for block collision, are the ones that I need to be testing against. And so actually most of these blocks are now going to land nicely. It's just the triangle sections that won't overlap. So, because I could land that one there. Yeah, that's okay. Let's do something like that. Oh, lovely, yeah. Yes, so that one should have landed half a cell, actually a complete cell down. That was what I was going to do when I'm looking at the triangle routine. So I might have to dig into the triangle routines a bit sooner than I expected. So we may not get a lot done today because I'll be trying to figure out very complicated old triangle collision code using using the separating axis theorem. So this is quite fun. I can draw all sorts of good shapes, and it looks to me like the collision is working pretty well. Oh, the other thing I fixed the other week. Oh, hello, Nicola Scamino, or Nicholas Camino. Can't quite tell. There's the rotation still works. Can I rotate? Ah, it gets stuck when it rotates, or when you can't rotate going down into the grid, because I didn't add the extra. I added code on the sides, the grid boundaries. So here the rotate will actually push it off slightly when it needs to, but it won't do that when colliding against blocks. So that's possibly a good thing, possibly a bad thing. I'll leave the decision on that for a bit later. I wonder if I can slot something in. One of the things we did a lot in the gameplay was when you have to slot blocks in sideways. So if I can go sideways, yes, drop it in like that. This isn't a lot of fun for you guys at the moment, just watching me kind of play. I was trying to get a small block. There we go. I can see if I can slot this in to the left. I bet I won't be able to. I'll try and slot that into that gap. No, it didn't work because it's colliding in different places, so it's kind of stuck at that point. I remember a lot of fiddly code to work out all these edge cases where you should be able to slide blocks in between gaps, and the sliding code when a block slides over another one when it lands, that was a lot of fiddly stuff to do. Anyway, I won't get to that for many months to come, I'm sure. Be nice if that slotted down in there, wouldn't it? But it doesn't. Anyway, that's enough of that for now. So, add one above. Why am I adding one above? I'm adding one above to cover the block dropping between grid rows. But I don't need to add one below, because obviously it never goes below the block boundary it's currently sort of on. Right, let's see what else we can do. So if I'm testing triangles out, ooh, I know what I could do. I could, rather than actually worry about triangle collision, down in here, this is my naive collision test at the moment. All it's doing is, oh hi G-Dragon, good to see it. All it's doing is testing to see whether or not the value isn't 0, and bedrooms. Awesome names. So, if anybody follows me, they get some fireworks on the screen. Don't forget that on Live Coding TV. It will appear with your avatar. So what I want to do is see if I can get at the moment, a triangle won't slot over another one. If I do that there, let's see if we can get, that one won't work, but I can put it there to test. Here we go. So this triangle should slot over the other one because there's no inherent collision that's going to occur. But what's happening at the moment is it's just testing to see whether the block in the grid is non-zero. So we'll do that and fix it so we'll actually test the triangles out. Let's lose... we're okay. Remind myself of my triangles. Here they are. I need my cheat sheet. So, when we test the blocks, first of all I want to determine what the actual triangle type of the block I'm testing in the grid is, and then test that against the block in the falling block. So actually one of the things I could do is rather than just return the grid indexes of the grid, I kind of want to return the index of the grid and the index within the block that corresponds to it needing to be tested, don't I? So rather than have indexes, I might as well actually have index and block cell. So that's, in this instance, we're actually going to use block cell, aren't we? So why don't I push an object onto my array, and I'm going to call it block cell. Block cell. I could call it block cell index or block index, maybe. We'll see if I get confused by what I'm writing. And then its grid index is that. And then the same down here. So we want block cell and grid index. So indexes is now changed. So let's see where we use this. Indexes.length, its index is n.grid cell. Did I call it grid cell? I can't. I've forgotten already. Did I call it grid cell or grid pos? Grid index. Right, grid index. And that's all I need really for that one. Do I use it in the one place? Yeah, I do. Check that still works. Yep, it's working good. So now I want, so indexes.length. In fact, that's not working because I need indexes.grid index there. And we're only actually caring about this if grid. So if let's do grid pos. Actually, grid index. Do that first. I might need that again. Grid index. Some people think I'm odd. I like to put a space before my open parentheses or open square brackets for indexes. You see me doing that all over the place. I've always just liked it that way. I like to space out the name of the function from the block of parameters or the name of an array from its index. I think I'm kind of unusual in that. You don't see a lot of code like that, but it's just something I've always done. Less necessary when you've got an IDE or an editor that correctly colors your functions and arrays and things, but it's just something I've always liked to do. Grid index, grid pos, and we also want a block cell. So if block cell, oh no, this is interesting. It's not quite as straightforward as this, is it? I'm actually going, I don't just care about the block cell. I actually care about the tile. I could use falling blocks, can't I? Falling block. Yeah, no, we want to use block, don't we? So if we use block dot tile data. No, it's tiled, isn't it? Now this is where I should store more references to things as I'm going along. Let's see, var. Do I keep the tile? Tile equals aq.tile data block dot index maybe. Tile num. That's it. Tile num. Block dot tile num. So we do that, and then I'm testing the tile block data. Is it tile grid data. I'm going to call it tile grid data. There's tile.grid data rotation block.rot. So that gets me my grid. And then down in here, if tile grid data dot, it's not tile grid data, it's tile grid data block pos. No, grid pos. Gosh, this is confusing. Grid pos. Lots of people joining. Sorry, I'm not announcing everybody as they're joining. I'm concentrating on this bit of code. People are coming and going quite quickly as well. I wonder if I'm on the on one of the promoted pages of Live Coding TV. That tends to happen if you're on the homepage. That'd be rather cool. I'm not going to look myself. If anybody wants to let me know, that'd be great. Sometimes you get the featured videos, don't you, or recommended. And sometimes you're even on the homepage. Let's just see if I can not lose my train of thought and carry on from where I was. Tile grid data grid pos. If that's not equal to 0, then I want to collide. I want to do the collision test with grid pos. I suppose we want to do if grid pos. I want to do this bit first. Actually, I can do it inside the do the one if statement. So if grid pos is a number and it's block cell is not, it's not grid data, it's block cell, isn't it? It's tile grid data block cell, that's what I'm after. Block cell, tile grid data block cell, and grid pos. I think that's what I'm going to need. Grid index, block cell, yeah. So this is the grid position. That's the actual data. I might change that to grid position, grid pos data, grid. Maybe I might call it grid block data. Yeah, grid block data. And I can work out falling block cell data, and that's actually this one. Hi, Ashuto Pawar, good to see you. Or Ashutosh Pawar, cool name. Tim is my bot. His introduction sometimes disappears off the top of the chat window, so not everyone knows that, because I gave him a real name rather than call him Timbot or Stevebot. I was reading about the Amazon, what do they call it? Was it Vex or basically Amazon and part of their Amazon Web Services system have just announced a really cool sounding beta program for a service and an SDK that uses Amazon Web Services for natural language processing and parsing, and it looked really interesting. And I signed up for that. They haven't emailed me back yet. Sometimes when they do early access stuff, you don't always get access to it. But it'd be really cool to incorporate natural language parsing features into a chatbot. You can do it. There are other services that already do it actually, but Amazon's quite cool. I've got an Amazon Echo sitting on my desk over here. Use it a lot. And they're sort of, I think the Amazon Echo stuff works better than Apple's Siri personally. I get really frustrated trying to talk to an iPhone using Siri, but talking to Alexa on my Amazon Echo recognizes me all the time, and my wife is much happier with the Echo as well. And if it's got the wife acceptance factor, that's good for me. I've turned her on mute at the moment, so she's not responding. So where were we? I was using so we got grid block data, and I might add a comment. So this is the cell data within the grid, and this is cell data within the grid to collide collision test, and cell data within the falling block at the same position, at the position overlapping the grid cell. And at the moment, we're just testing if they're both non-zeros. So let's try this and see what happens. I probably cocked up something. Oh no, it's still running, it hasn't crashed. Ah, it won't let me. Oh yeah, there we go. For some reason, Chrome you have to click on the window to get focus from it. Don't know why that is. Ah, we're not working at all now. So I've messed up something there. Let's see what's going on. Give myself a little bit more room. So falling block cell data is not 0, and grid block data is not 0. This should be the overlapping part of the falling block and the grid cell that we're testing, and if they're both not 0, we're expecting there to be some sort of collision between them, and it returns 99. If grid pos, oh, does grid pos even exist anymore? Ah, yeah, here we go. It should have been, what did I even put that in there for? I wonder if something, grid index, I think that was to test whether or not grid index overruns the array. Oh, thanks for following, much appreciated. And you get the fireworks. Thank you. I'm just going to do that because with any luck, if we get an array index out, if we index the array in a non position, it'll just be undefined. So that'll fail on our specific equals 0 tests. We'll see what happens. Oh, nothing at all. No, it's probably going out of bounds here somewhere, isn't it? Let's see. Grid index. If grid index, or actually that was it. It was grid block data, wasn't it? Grid index is less than 0, or grid index is greater than or equal to self.gameGrid length, then we just want to continue the loop and not bother testing that. See what happens there. Nope, still failing. So, time for the debugger. Sources. And we're in game, aren't we? What's my Cocos2d-JS? A couple of people coming and going. So what's going on? So grid index in this case is 301. Grid block data. Grid block data is undefined. Why is that? Could it be because game grid is a sparse array? What am I doing wrong here? Must be something to do with it being a sparse array, or I've not put anything in the fields. So I suppose I can. That's why I had the type of number in there, I think, didn't I? So if actually down here, if type of grid block data, that was it. I changed grid pos, didn't I? I changed grid pos to grid block. I changed grid pos to grid block data, and then forgot what grid pos was used for. Equals. Oh, it does not equal number. Then we continue as well. Right. Here we go. Now we're doing something better. Okay. Hey, it collided. Right. So that's doing something. Still won't collide those squares. All it's testing now is that they're non-zero, so that's good. So we're definitely getting a bit more fitting in occurring. Oh, I could slot that in there as well. So now, whereas before that would have sat on the top, because it was testing every cell within the grid of the falling block, now it's only testing the ones that are actually occupied by things. So only when something collides with a red highlighted cell will it actually stop. There it is. Ah, excellent. Oh, I almost had to try and slot that. I'm going to try and slot that in, but I know it won't work. No, it didn't work. Right, so that's good. Now we can actually test the actual value. So at the moment we're just doing the naive does not equal 0 test. But now we can test for overlapping triangle. So I'm going to write a new function. We're in grid. I could do it in tile, actually. Could make a static function. I've got a few static functions here that do things. Get tile bounds. Create tile node at rotation. Draw triangle. Let's do a... So this is boundaries. That was the init function, isn't it? Yep. Let's do aq.test triangle collision. And we've got T1 and T2. So where I got confused last week with collisions. So let's make sure that we have something like 0 for no collision and 1 for a collision. Test to triangle types for collision. Is it collision or is it overlapping? Test triangle collision. Yeah, that's going to be a bit of a generically named function. I want to do check for triangle overlap, or triangle check for cell. Yeah, triangle overlap. Okay, test two triangle types to see if they... Actually, it's not even overlap. It's check for triangle overlap. I suppose it is. I could say 0. They definitely have to return false when they don't overlap. Check for triangle, see if they would overlap within a single grid cell. And it's return, so T1 first triangle. Can't type today, been doing too much writing. We fill out our tax returns by basically using the paper tax return that the UK government lets you use, which we've done for many years. But then we transfer that onto the internet by filling in the actual online tax return. But we've worked out the paper tax return for so long now that we know exactly how to do it and how it all works. And then it's much easier than just basically doing all that we know. Just muted myself while I had a cup of tea there, but the mute button, Mac M, is the same as minimize for Slick Edit. If I do it again. I said it vanished and then you couldn't hear me. So, first triangle from the falling block. Falling block. Second triangle from the grid. And return 0. So, the function is called check for triangle cell overlap. This is going to confuse me because I'm testing for collision in different places. Return 0 if no overlap would occur. Oh, that's going to be so wrong. I'm going to have to do triangle collision. Check for triangle overlap. If you want overlap, it should be positive. I'd otherwise return true and false. In fact, we'll do that. And false if they slot over each other exactly. So how do we do that? Should be quite straightforward actually. So we've got types 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I need a cheat sheet to keep reminding me. Let's do something like make this into a smaller. Maybe I can put it at the top. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just add some comments to the very top of the file here. So, come back. Hit the wrong button. Block select. That's what I want. So, triangle type 1. Ooh, hi JGE Dean. Good to see you. Well, my insert over type button doesn't want to work. That must be a synergy thing. That's the program I use for sharing the mouse and keyboard between my PC and my Mac. No idea why that is. I've got an actual real Mac keyboard here, but it doesn't have an insert key on it. Never mind. Triangle type 1. And now we want 2. And 3. Add a bit of a space there, and 4. There we go. Right, now I can split this window in half. Do that. And then write my function with reminders. I can't even find where the function was. There it is, right. Check for triangle overlap. So I can do it the brute force way. Let's try. There might be a really clever mathematical way of doing it, but I don't know what it is yet. We'll just do it the brute force way. So, and we're going to do true if the triangles will overlap. So we know that if T1 is equal to triangle 1 and T2 is equal to 3, then they won't overlap, so we can return false. In fact, if T1 is 0 or T2 is 0, then there's no overlap going to occur, so that'll be false as well. So 1 and 3 overlap. Sorry, 1 and 3 don't overlap, they'll slot over each other perfectly, and 2 and 4. 2 and 4 will overlap. Sorry, will slot over each other perfectly. And that's about it. I can't. Anything else is going to overlap, isn't it? In which case we return true. Ooh, hi, be free. Good to see you. Right. Return true. Is it that simple, really? I must be doing something wrong there. When they rotate, the triangle numbering all still remains the same. So in the rotation code, if I rotate a triangle type 1, the number in the data in the cell becomes type 2. So yeah, you're only testing against these 4 values. Okay, right. So maybe we can use that in the grid function. Let's move that down to here. Ooh, come back. So here, of course we've got cell data and not just triangle data, have we? I wonder. Let's try. So when we're testing squares, we know that if the block cell data is going to be, if it's equal to 31, or it's equal to 13. Remember that the triangles for each block type are encoded into the first and the second nibbles of the lower byte. So I could do something like, and FF, yeah, I probably have to do that. Ooh, I keep hitting control. I thought control was one word at a time, but it's not. So that's going to equal a square. Oh, hi, Matt the Coder. Good to see you. Now I've completely lost track of whether or not I've got enough brackets. Yeah, that makes the last one. Oh, and someone else. Oh, Maximus 26. Lots of people joining now. So if it's 31 or 13, then I know it's a square. And what I was going to check for is if the grid block data is also the same. I can do an is square, can't I? Let's do this. Is square. Grandpa coding his retirement pension. I had my haircut recently. I thought it'd make me look a bit younger. Let's see. And I'm not going to charge for this as well, so it's not going to make me a lot of money in the long run. Where was I going? I was testing to see if it was a square block. If it's a square block landing on a square block, then they're obviously going to collide, aren't they? I want a function that says is it square block. I'm just going to stick it here for now. Is square cell. See. We'll refactor this and put it somewhere else a bit later on. When was the last? Literally only about 4 days ago. You should, if you watch some of my earlier streams, you'll see I had much longer hair. Function. And I'm confusing myself because I switched between a PC and a Mac, and the synergy mapping of my keyboard is subtly different. I should have got this fixed. I've been doing this for months now. Should have got it fixed. But you always tend to like just live with these little niggles forever, don't you? Is square cell. So if C is if it's 31 or 13, or the other way you can do a square is you can do a 24 or a 42, can't you? 24 or 42. We can either return true, or I can just return that. Right, so if is square cell falling block cell data. Afternoon, Matt. Good to see you. How long have you been a coder then, Matt? If you're Matt the Coder. I've been a coder, well, considering I had my first computer when I was 17, no, actually when I was 14, and I'm now 42, I've been a coder almost 28-ish years, but not a professional coder. Is square cell that, and is square cell grid block data. Then we're going to definitely collide 1099. But if we get to this point, then we know that there's triangles going on, don't we? Actually, I don't necessarily, yeah, return 99. So we want to do the the triangle overlap function. Now we've got to map the different triangles out of the cells. So 10 years. That's pretty good going. That's pretty much the amount of time it takes to get totally proficient at the job. Is it 10,000 hours? 10 years? You can call yourself pretty much professional then. Although, just like me, you can still mess things up totally. Whenever you write new code, it seems like you don't know what the hell you're doing half the time. And then when it all works, you feel good about yourself. So, T2 equals falling blocks. We've got to test the individual triangles. So, falling block cell data and 0f. Here we go. I just remembered. Yes, you're still learning all the time. That's one of the best things about being a coder programmer, is that every time you think you know how to do something, the system gets changed underneath you. So I'm learning Cocos2d-JS v3 here. I thought I knew v2, and v3 changed completely. So check for cell triangle overlap. Now this is interesting because I could actually, what I've just realized is that the triangles can be either in two positions in the block. And I suppose what I want to do is first of all test the first two positions and the second two positions, and then you've got to test them against each other. Yes, oh well. So if falling block cell data and F and T1, so no, T1 is going to be the falling block data, and T2 is going to be the grid block data. So we can do if AQ dot check for triangle cell overlap, T1, T2, and it's going to return true if they would overlap. So if we want false here, then we're going to get a collision. Now we're going to do this a few more times for the different variations of the positions that the triangles can be in, and I can probably refactor this into a neater function after I've got it all working. But I'll do that. I'll just do it the brute force way first. So if we have F0 shifted down by 4 bits and F0 shifted down by 4 bits, so they can do those, then we want to do it again where we're testing that one against this one that's shifted down. Okay. And then we're testing this one that's shifted down against that one that's not. 0f. That might not be all of them, but we'll give it a try and see what happens. We'll probably catch a few cases. And also, oh wow, it hasn't crashed yet, so I didn't do any syntax errors at that point. Right, oh, that goes there. Not going to get any triangles, am I? Do you teach coding? You're really good at explaining my process. Oh, thank you. No, I don't teach any coding. All I'm really doing is just vocalizing my thoughts as I've been thinking about what I'm doing. So I don't know if I mean, really I'm not explaining it, I'm just telling you what I'm doing. Oh, that didn't work. I was hoping that was going to overlap, but it didn't. Let's try that one. I was chatting to my... So they're my first cousins once removed. So they're my cousins' sons last weekend. And they're only in their they're only young. They're like 11 and 12 years old. One of them's been coding in Scratch. And it's really impressive the amount of stuff he's done. He's written a game where it involves avoiding a bouncing ball, and you control a little character, you avoid the bouncing ball that's bouncing around the screen, and you move the character around. And he's gone through the process of figuring out that because it was a ball bouncing around the screen, the character could hide in the corners and wouldn't get caught by the ball. So he then changed the game design so that after a certain amount of time, the ball grows spikes, and those spikes can get you in the corners. And then he added scoring and a high score, and now he's added a shop to the game so that you can you score points, and then you spend those points on power-ups that will let you go faster, and a bat that lets you hit the ball away. And it's like, this is amazing for a 12-year-old lad to code this up in Scratch as well. He was interested in learning Python and the Pygame library, so I showed him some stuff about that, basically how to install it, and some really good tutorials on the internet, especially using Python because it's a great language. It's very easy to read Python, and that was really good fun actually. Just chatting to the young lad. Hopefully you learnt a thing or two. Anyway, so this isn't working actually. I got sidetracked there. I'm hoping to find some triangles that can overlap each other, but they're not. I've probably got a plus and a minus in the wrong place. Let's just restart this and get myself thinking about the triangles. Click. Right, so that's a triangle. Don't want that one. Here we go. So I'm hoping that this one should overlap, but it's not. So let's see what the debugger's doing. There we are, right. So this is test collision. So do we ever get down here? No, we don't. So it's obviously returning something before that. Oh, what am I doing? I didn't actually click the run button. There we go. All right, so we do get down here. So we've got T1 and T2 are 2 and 4. So we know that they should, in this instance, let's go into here. So 2 and 4. Okay, so it's false when they slot over each other exactly. Well, that's interesting. I did get my true and false wrong, didn't I? Because I want, if they slot over each other exactly, I don't want to return 99 here, I just want to keep going. Yes, I'm sure that's probably all I did wrong. He says, before it still won't work. Oh, cheers. Thanks very much for following. Much appreciated. Here we go. I stream Thursday afternoons at 4 o'clock UK time, yes, and also Tuesday evenings at 8 o'clock in the evening, Tuesday evenings in UK time. But I'm not going to be doing any next week because it's too busy with Christmas things going on, so I won't have time. Be rather antisocial if I was to leave the family and friends at the Christmas party and then come and do an hour's live streaming, probably while having had a few beers and whiskies as well, so I'd be rather drunk. I haven't had any today, honest. Okay, so triangle. Oh, that one should overlap it. Go on. Yes, it did. Fantastic. It sat there and the collision stopped when it hit the block below. Ah, excellent. Rather pleased that worked. Hi, Ducky C. Good to see you. You've just arrived when the little bit of collision code I've been writing is almost working. Yes. So the blocks are now overlapping properly. Will that land there? Ah, that one didn't work. Rats. I wonder why that didn't work. Possibly because the triangles are pointing a different way and I haven't actually caught all the cases yet. Let's see. That one. Yeah, that worked earlier, so that should work. So there's that one. That's a good one. There's that. Now, will that one work? No, it's stuck there. So let's break in and see what I've missed at this point. Hopefully, my breakpoint. Yeah, so we're still coming in. So T1 and T2 at this point are 3 and 1. Is that correct? So we've got a 3 and a 1. So a 3 and a 1. Yes, we have. That's those pointy triangles there, that one and that one. And this one should not collide. Oh, I know what it is. I think I'm gonna. So this one returns true. So there's no collision occurring there. So it's, why is it returning 99 when there's no collision? Check for triangle overlap. They should overlap. What did I do wrong? I can't see the wood for the trees. So we're still testing 1 and 3. 1 and 3, yep. Let's go in. So it's false if they slot over each other exactly. Yeah, that's what I expected. Ah, you know what? Yes, of course. So I'm only testing 3 and 1, and I'm testing for 1 and 3. I need to expand that test slightly. I'll have to think about this a little bit more. I'm sure there's a better way of doing this. It all stems from how I used to store triangle data within the grid as like individual parts of integers, because we couldn't have lots of objects and things. But now I can, because there's obviously I'm building it for a PC and much more modern smartphones rather than old mobile phones. But it's still fun fiddling around with these bits and bytes every now and again. So that's going to be 4 and 2. That's the same as well, isn't it? Okay, assuming I got 4 different checks there. Yeah, 4 different checks there. That should be each combination of one or the other. And that tests those. Okay, let's try this. So if this works, that'll be quite a good time to stop, I think, because I've had the hour today, and it'd be really. I could almost play the game actually if I added a few more features to the game, like making it actually a game. Yes, that stopped, so that's good. And actually, I might actually just make the next block automatically fall when the collisions have occurred. That way I won't need to keep pressing space like I'm doing now. So that should land. Yes, it lands nicely. Excellent. Ooh, let's try that one. Good. Another triangle. So, ooh, could try that way. So the one that didn't work before, I can't remember which one that was. It was one of the light blue cyan coloured blocks, wasn't it? Ooh, that should slot over nicely. I've practically got Tetris with pointy blocks now, haven't I? That should go there. Yep. Let's do that again. Ooh, that'll slot like that. Lovely. Oh, here's a blue one. Right, I think it was this that failed last time, wasn't it? Oh, it went right the way through. Ah, yes. Because I'm not testing for collision and actual landing on the slopes and things like that. Yeah, now that explains why that went through. Because it won't. These two triangles, this triangle here and this one, won't collide because of the code I've just written. But there's nothing underneath it to stop it either, so it just carries straight on through. In the final game, they will slide off of each other like that. So when slopes land onto each other, they slide, and the blocks move sideways. That'll come when I work out the triangle collision routines properly, because the triangle collision routines will respond with actual when two blocks move into each other in collision, the routines actually work out what to do to move them apart again, and that can be tweaked so that it pushes them sideways. I remember doing that in my old code. Oh, this is working pretty well. I'm quite pleased with this. I've got something that looks almost like a game. Let's just see. The one thing I was going to do before I end the stream was see if I can make use of this collision function. So check for triangle cell overlap. Or can I? Yeah, see, it's a bit difficult to do that at the moment because of what I actually want. It's not the collision that I want to stop on. It's the block no longer being able to move anywhere. That's effectively the trigger for the next block to occur. So at the moment, I've got this little bit of code here that manually triggers a new block. So manually trigger a new block. And I'm hitting the space bar to insert the falling block into the grid and then trigger the new block function. And the idea is that this particular function here, or this particular block of code, gets triggered automatically when the block can't move any further. That's going to need a little bit of thought on how that works. It's not just whether or not any of these collision function returns true, I don't think. Let's see. I mean, I'll have a quick think. It might be. Oh, hi, Valdine. Good to see you. You've been around before, I'm pretty sure. You haven't followed me yet, though. I notice you haven't got the esteemed follower greeting from my bot, Tim. You're more than welcome to do that if you like. Just thinking, do I carry on and worry about this insert block? Oh, thank you very much. Really appreciate that. I've got 2 new followers. That was... I thought that was Valdine following me, but my bot announced Kailu following me. Ah, this is where I get confused. I've got a little pop-up from my browser on my left window here, but my bot Tim only checks every 30 seconds or so. Here we go. Now he's announcing Valdine is the latest follower. Thank you very much. I do appreciate that. Happy Christmas to you. You look like you have a Christmas jumper on, but actually it's a sofa that you're sitting on. Okay, I should have worn a Christmas jumper today. I haven't actually got a Christmas jumper. Don't do that sort of thing. I have a Christmas t-shirt, but I've just got a standard blue one on. So, new rotation and position. This is where we're setting things. This is where we're actually updating the block. Move block by dx dy. I wonder. I might just do something simple here. If dx and dy are 0, so that the block's never going to move, I think that's a good point to trigger the new block. So we'll tentatively do it. So a new block if the falling one has stopped moving. So if dx 0 and dy equals 0, then what we want to do is this bit of code here. If this works, then I'll be quite pleased. And well, hi, I love pie. Good to see it. Hopefully you'll be eating lots of pie over Christmas. I know I will be. So no hands on the keyboard. It's stopped, but nothing's actually moved. I know what it is. It's move block by can actually return false, can't it? Let's try. Actually, it doesn't return anything, but move block by does determine if the block is actually positioned. So let's return a function. Let's just return true or false out of that. Return false if the block is not actually moved. So return true, if I can type properly. Return true, and return false if the block is not actually moved. Yes, so the set position is not called, then of course then I'm going to do if not. They always say you shouldn't have negative tests. I mean, obviously you can have negative tests, that's the whole point of programming languages, but it's not a good idea because it's difficult to read. But I quite like that. If not, self.move block by. So if the block doesn't move, then we do that. There we go. Right, one last try, and if this works, then we'll call it a day. So move the block down. Yeah, it worked. So it triggered a new one automatically when it landed. If I just let that land automatically, yay, it triggered a new block. I can slot that one over there. Lovely. I can keep holding the key down now, and they'll just keep coming. So I'm holding down the lower arrow, or the bottom arrow. Excellent. And we can stack out. Oh, we can't, but it's just fits an infinite loop at that point. There was the stack out part of the old game. Actually, the camera moves up as you build the stack. You only stack out because the camera follows the little guys that are walking around on your stack. And if the one at the bottom can't move up for any reason, and the camera hits the top, then you actually do lose. Also, if the little guy gets drowned by water. I think that's working pretty well. That's almost got some potential gameplay there. Great. I might use that as the what am I calling it? The thumbnail for the video. Yes, you can't choose the thumbnails for your videos on Live Coding TV, but I've been uploading all my videos to YouTube, and you can obviously choose your thumbnail on YouTube. So if anybody feels like watching all my old streams but don't like going back to Live Coding TV, then you can watch them all on YouTube. And my blog has links to them all as well. Oh yeah, we're getting some quite good stacking going on now. It's just reminded me of the scoring mechanism I used to use, and it was to do with how many blocks that were solidly filled. So basically, how much of the tower you built as a complete stack that was totally solid, so without any gaps, like without any gaps like that. So there's a little gap in the middle there. So all of the solidly connected blocks gained you more points than blocks that were left with gaps. And also, if you connected blocks together, they all merged into a single block. You get more points for that as well. So I'm remembering some of my old logic. Anyway, I could spend all day just playing this now and just relaxing in the knowledge that just before the end of the year, I've actually come and got something done. So I've spent, how many weeks have I been doing this now? I've been doing this for probably 2.5-ish months. I think it was September I started. So September, October, November, December, maybe into 3 months, and about 25-ish hours. So that's not too bad. That's like less than a working week, and I've still got, I've got quite a bit of logic going on here. I've got a browser that will, I've got a game that will run in a browser with different sizes. I've got the blocks falling. I can define blocks of different shapes. I can expand and contract my game area. I've got some constants in the game code which define how big they are. Got some collision going on. Oh, there's a bug. So my collision stops when it hits the edge. Yeah, I didn't think that tentative test would work in all scenarios. It obviously doesn't, because when it hits the edge, but it should still be falling down. But it does. It hits the edge. But if I try and collide, I wonder why dy didn't get updated. What I should do is be a bit more careful in here, because I still want to set the y position if it's moving down, but not when it hits the bottom or collides against something. So there's more subtleties to the collision detection that I'll have to implement over the coming weeks. And with that, I think I will sign off. I will commit the code to GitHub just as soon as I've finished the stream. I won't do it on stream now. It's only just a couple of uses, couple of commands from SmartGit. And wish you all a Merry Christmas, and we'll see you after Christmas. I'll do a couple of streams between Christmas and New Year. Yes, so see you after next week. Thanks, everybody. All the best, and talk to you soon. There we go. Back to my intro.